Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be teaching you how to create an ESC / motor tester. Now this is a pretty awesome little device here. So let's just take a look of how this thing will work. Currently we have a screen, Arduino, potentiometer, and some terminals here for the ESC power, as well as the signal, and a voltage regulator, as well as an Xt60 connector. So let's just take a look here. So here we wanted to test this setup. We don't know if this ESC was working. Now we know the motor is working, or vice versa. So what you want to do is you would go ahead and install the power. So there we go. There's the ESC power installed. Step 1. Step 2, we're going to install the ground for the ESC power. Step 3, just insert your signal like this onto those pins. And now let's bring the whole picture in view. There we go. Now we just apply power. Now I highly recommend, if this is the first time connecting the ESC, you have this on full blast so it can calibrate the ESC. Now we just wait and it should calibrate. Start the calibration sequence. So now we know the ESC is working. Okay. There we go. It's just like in beta flight. Full throttle and then 0 throttle. Now the ESC is calibrated. Once it's calibrated, you don't have to do this step again. Just make sure you boot at 0% always. So now if we want to go ahead and test the motor, we just spin this guy. And that's it. We got ourselves a nice little motor / ESC testers that just takes 4 connections, has a nice little gauge, and enough talking, and let's just get started. Alright guys, so currently the layout is going to be something of this nature right here. Now, what we have is we have our voltage regulator, which the Xt60 will come in to the voltage regulator here and supply 5 volts for everything here. And the Xt60 also, while supplying voltage, is going to run a direct connection to these 2 terminals, which will be the ESC power. And if you can see those 3 pins right there, that's going to be for the ESC signal. Yes, it's 2 wires, but they give you a servo type connector with 3 pins on every ESC. So you just stick that in and you're good to go. Now, the potentiometer is going to be here. The screen is going to be there. So once you plug in your battery, you just go ahead and just do this right here. You get your screen away from the wires and everything should be very, very nice. So as you can tell here, we have the voltage regulator. Now, the orientation does really matter, because where this cap, especially if you use the same one as I do, you have to take a look at the bottom here. If you take a look, you have the in plus and the in minus on the right. And on the left, we have the out minus and the out plus. So we want to keep the out that way and the in here, because the Xt60 is going to come from here. So we're just going to put that in like so and just drop it in. You're also going to need some pin headers. I'll leave a link to some down below. They're really cheap and they're very useful. So yeah, I want to move this back actually 1 pin here. There we go. Okay. So this is how the layout will be, and I'll leave a link to everything down below. Everything can be found on Banggood, and it's really highly recommended you get the same screen as me, because some come colored, some come connection through SPI, some IC squared, all these kinds of things. So make sure you use the same one so the code will actually work perfect for you as well. And I'll leave a link to the 10K potentiometer here. So let's flip this guy over, and we're just going to start soldering everything into place currently. So some of the things will fall out, like these pins here. So what I might do is just quickly just hit them with a little solder while I'm holding the board upside down. Just try not to keep holding the pin that you're going to be soldering. See, I'm going to solder that top one because the heat will transfer pretty quickly. So we're going to go ahead and hit the pin right there. And let's go ahead and do that real quick. So let's get some solder. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold the pin just like this, somewhat close to it, so I could come in and the flux will still be active and hasn't completely gone anywhere, like so. There we go. Now that's into place. I just want to see if it's aligned good. Oh, it's pretty good. We could just give it a little push now, and then we can go ahead and solder them, all of them together. There we go. That's perfect now. Alright, so let's just begin soldering everything here. I think that's the way to go about doing it. So everything else should be pretty much into place. held into place. Just make sure everything's aligned because you want it to be nice, and you really don't want to come back and reheat everything else. So let's go ahead and flip this guy over like so. We're going to start with the potentiometer right there. So it's kind of probably a little bit difficult to see, but these pins right here, those three are for the potentiometer. The ones on this side were the ESC, and we'll see that in a little bit. So let's just start putting in. Pause the video if you wanted to make sure you have the same layout as me right there. So putting in the potentiometer, you don't want to put too much solder. Awesome. Okay, so the potentiometer is soldered into place now. Now I want to just make sure my voltage regulator, which is right here, is in all the way as much as possible. And I'm going to come here and just... Okay, so that's in. I'm going to do the corners now. All right, beautiful. So now we don't have to worry about this guy. All right, so as you can tell here, we just soldered this guy and that guy. So the next step for us to do, let's actually do this guy and this guy as well. We're gonna do the two terminals, make sure they're pushed all the way down. Those were aligned. That's the first thing we hit because it wasn't gonna be so stable. And the screen we come back for it in a little bit. So because it needs to be stable like this, it's popping out a little bit. So the pins are right here for the two terminals that we just saw, the blue ones. So let's just go hit those in. Okay. Very nice. And these were for the ESC signal. The middle one's not going to be used, so you can just use the ones on the outsides. You don't have to solder the middle one in anywhere. So I'm just going to just re-hit that one. Was the one we didn't do so well in the beginning because of the way we were setting it up. So now basically everything is soldered into place except the Arduino and the screen. So let's go. We can do every single pin on the Arduino, but I tend not to like doing that because I just put solder on the pins that I need, and this way it's a lot easier for me to find the pin that I need. So let's go ahead and see the pins that we need. We're going to need D9. D9 is what's going to be outputting the signal to the ESC. So D9 is going to be telling the ESC what throttle to be set up. So we're going to go ahead and look for D9, which is right there, and it is this pin right here. So it's I don't want to burn my hand, but it's that one right there, as I believe. Let's just double check. It's a little bit difficult, or we could just count 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's the fourth pin on this side. So let's take a look here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's this guy right there. It's a very bad position, but just so you guys can see everything. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Okay, so that's 9. So that will be, a wire will be going from this pin to one of these pins right here, because that's going to be for the ESC signal. Now let's move along. We don't really need much. We're going to need ground. So ground is right there. So we need to count how many. 1, 2, 3, 4. Also the fourth pin from this side. So let's go ahead and start counting these guys. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. So that's ground. There's more than one ground pin on the Arduino, and we're going to take advantage of all of them just to make our wiring a little bit better. V in, which is the voltage in, we're going to need, as well as the ground next to it. So we're going to need those two on the other side. So if we look here, those first two we're going to need. So let's just add some solder to them. Okay, nice. Very good. Okay, make sure it's leveled also before you start soldering. As you can tell right here, it's pretty much leveled. All right, so what else do we have? Let's take a look. 5 volt. Do we need 5 volt? No, because the screen takes 3.3 volts. So we're gonna need the 3.3 volt here. Okay, and what else are we gonna need? We're gonna need A4, A5, and A0. So let's go step by step. Now we're gonna start counting from here. So we're gonna need 3.3 volt. It's the second pin right there. That's gonna be for the screen's voltage. So you could put 5 volt, but it's recommended to put 3 volt. 3.3 volts. So it was the second pin here from this side. If you take a look, see, 3.3 volt. Flip it over. It's the second pin there. We're gonna go ahead and set that guy up. Beautiful. Okay. And now if we take a look again, now we need A0. Now you might say, well, why do we need A0 for? Well, A0 is an analog pin, and it could read basically voltage into a number of 1 through 1023, I believe, or 1024. What happens is the middle pin on the potentiometer is going to be connected to A0. And then you give basically ground and 5 volt. And in here, depending on the resistance or the voltage, because it's the resistance at 10K, from 0 to 100%, in the code, it'll map A0 as a number 1 through 100. Thus, whatever the number is being generated through this will be outputted through the digital pin here, which talks to the ESC and tells it to output whatever percentage we want. So that's how this works. So A0 we're gonna need, and let's count that, 1, 2, 3, 4, also the 4th pin. So we're gonna need, there was 2, 3, 4 right there. So A0. And then what's left now is basically 2 pins, I think A4 and A5. Those are what's going to be talking to the screen here. So it's kind of like a RX and a TX in a way. So A4 and A5 here, we're gonna need these guys right there. So VN 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We need pins 7 and 8 counting from this side. 7 and 8. So let's start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 1. And 8. These are going to be what's talking to the screen here. And I'm just going to double check that these are 7 and 8. So it's these two, A4 and A5. Perfect. All right. So now this thing is pretty much set up. Now all we need to do is add the screen, and then we're going to start wiring. The wiring shouldn't be that difficult. Now we want to kind of keep it just a little bit spaced away. I'm just going to see what's best here for what I think is best at the current moment. I think right there is going to be fine for me. So let's just go ahead and put these into place. I want to make sure it's as leveled as possible. I'm going to start with this pin because I'm actually touching these three with my finger on the other side. So we want to kind of get it into place because it won't sit flush on the table because we have all these other components. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the solder suspended, hold the solder, and then try to make my way. There we go. Once one pin holds, you're good. Just make sure you're not holding that pin on the other side or you'll burn your hand. It's not that painful, or it depends on how fast your reflexes are, I guess. And for soldering iron, I'm using the TS100. Really good soldering iron. Portable. Alright, so that's in. And feels pretty solid. Looks really nice. So we're almost done. All we need to do is the wiring now. And then also the Xt60. We're going to have to take this one off. So I'm just going to rip this one off real quick. So this was the burnt prototype. Alright guys, so let's just take a look at how it looks like now. So before, the potentiometer was up here and then I was doing like that. It was very slim, nice little package. But, you know, just because I burned the OLED, we have to switch over to this now. So now the next step to do is we need to prepare the voltage regulator. And what we're going to do is we're going to take away this Xt60 connector and we're going to solder it somewhere. Don't know just yet. Once the soldering station heats back up again, we're going to remove this, install it somewhere, give power here, and then we're going to start setting up the voltage regulator to output 5 volts so we don't burn anything basically. Alright, so the soldering station is ready. So let's go ahead and remove this guy. So let me just zoom in for you guys. Alright, very nice. Okay, be careful of the solder splatter. Try to keep the other board away from you. I'm trying to move it slowly. There we go. Beautiful. Alright, so one thing I want to check first, I want to see if these pads here are also basically connected up like this, or they're all connected together on this side and these are all connected together, because I don't know, and it's very important so we don't short circuit anything. So let's go ahead and grab a multimeter and we are going to set it in continuity mode, which means beep mode. If you touch them, they go ahead and do that. So what we're going to see is if these are connected. These are not connected, which is nice. Okay, so that's good. Just double check it's working. Now let's see if these are connected for some reason. Okay, they're not. Okay. Now I want to see if the upper part and the bottom part are connected together. So I'm going to touch one side here, and I'm going to go ahead and touch the other side. So yeah, they're not connected. So each pad is basically a separate entity. If you want to use that word, we could go ahead and use that word. All right, so let's go ahead and prepare these pads. I think we should do it on the back side. What do you guys think? Let's see. How did I have it on this one? Yeah, it will look much cleaner. Yeah, let's do it on the back side here. So we're just gonna add some solder to these pads. All right, where's the power? It's right here. So let me just see something. I'm curious to see because I forgot which is in plus and in minus. Okay, so the top part here is the positive, the bottom is the negative. So this would be the positives, I believe. We'll double check that in a little bit. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna have these two bridged together. So I'm just gonna put a lot of solder and put two to three paths to be bridged together, because it'll be a lot easier once we start adding smaller wires here, especially for the ground. Okay, there we go. And we're just gonna put one all the way here, would be nice. There we go. I'm add a little bit more because I'm pretty sure once I start soldering, they'll want to connect. There we go. All right. So now we prepared the pads for the power, and I want to double check which one was this top one again. All right, so this top one again is this is the positive. So since these are right next to each other, what we can do is we're gonna go ahead and grab the Xt60 connector and possibly try to do a little bridge right there to go through on the other side. So let's do, well, I'm right-handed, so this would be the logical way for me to solder it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and stick the positive there for the Xt60. Okay, so I didn't have very good hold on the area here. There we go. And that's pretty damn toasty. Shit, I should have gotten a... There we go. I mean, it's decent enough. It's really good. Doesn't really matter. Okay, there we go. We have our positive. Okay, great. Now I'll set up our negative lead. So let's just push this a little like so. And yeah, need something just keep pressure there. Some of you might be complaining like, why don't you use your helping hands? Well, I don't know where the hell I put them. There we go. Oh, damn it. So there we go. That's nice and beautiful. For some reason, this board takes a while to cool down a bit. So that's what happened there. All right, very nice. So now we have our power here. This is obviously ground from the battery, and this is going to be the positive. So we're going to go ahead and find the in plus, which is that pin right there on the voltage regulator. And we're going to go ahead and either bridge it or use a little wire. Now, I highly recommend these wires. I mean, they're really nice. Not the best of quality, but they're really good, actually. I've been using them quite often now. It's solid core, and they're really, really thin. I think they're 28 gauge, and you get a lot. I mean, a lot of them. I had them for the longest time. I never used them until the other day. I decided to try them out, actually. They're so thin, and they're pretty strong that they're almost like silicone wires, but they're really not silicone wires, so they will burn. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this little wire here. And I'm just going to trim it. It's a solid core, super thin solid core, so there's no strands in it. So there we go. And we're just going to... It could be a little bit tricky to strip if you don't have much experience, but you have enough there to practice for 3 years, so you'll be totally fine in that perspective. So we need positive from here to the positive on the voltage regulator. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of solder next to this so I can put my little wires on that side there. As you can tell, it's not the best of connections, but it doesn't have to be that good of a connection because it's not really that sensitive. So we're going to go ahead and just solder that there. Okay, so that's going to be our positive, and let's see if I can zoom in a little bit, and we're just going to solder it to this guy right here. I really like these wires, actually. Okay, just basically hold it against the pin and just start holding it against the base there and touch both the wire and the pad as well. See, so that's positive, that's in. Now let's go ahead and get ground. We're gonna get black wire here. Once I find it, it's becoming a little messy here, so there we go. Okay, so yeah, just make sure you don't ruin the you don't undo the wires, because it's not really nice package, if I would say, maybe. So we're gonna get a little black wire here, and we're gonna get ground from this ground all the way to this guy here, and then we're gonna start setting up the voltage regulator to output 5 volts, so we can start wiring everything else. There we go. So we have this wire. Now let's go ahead and just set that up there. Okay, give it a little bit. That's perfect. Maybe this wire was a little bit too long here, and I think I'm gonna trim it just to keep it nice and clean. So there we go. Beautiful. Very nice. So I'm gonna put that right over there on that edge right there. Okay. So that's in. And if you want to go ahead and check from right now, we can set this up, the multimeter, into continuity mode and just double check they're actually touching. So the way we do this is we touch this pin and we touch that pin. Perfect. Do we have any shorts? Nope. So now we touch this one here and this one, which is the positive. So that's perfect. They have a good connection. So now we have 5 volt going into the voltage regulator, and we have nothing coming out just yet. So now what we want to do is hopefully plug in the battery, nothing catches on fire, and grab our multimeter and start changing this potentiometer until we get, I don't see any smoke and I don't hear any sizzling. Awesome. So let's get our multimeter here, and be careful when touching these. Take your time so you don't touch anything else, because they make them in a way to basically burn them. All right, let's see what it's outputting right now. So it's outputting 11.9 volts, as you can see right there. Basically 12 volts. So we're gonna try spinning it left. I don't know what happens when you spin it left. And then we're gonna check again, and then we're gonna do the same thing to the other side. So let me get a... Alright, so I got a screwdriver, a small flathead here, and maybe I need smaller. No, that's fine. So I turned it quite a bit. What is that? Counterclockwise. And let's go ahead and check the voltage here. So we want to turn it clockwise, because now it's 14 volts. It was 12 volts before. So let's go ahead and drop this guy. I think right there. Okay. Okay, we're almost there. 6.5 volts. Just a little bit more. Maybe about that much. Let's go ahead and check this guy. That's a little bit too much. Yeah, you need something to stay on there. It'll make your life a lot easier. 4.99 volts. Perfect. I'm good. I'm happy with that. All right, so now our voltage regulator, in theory, should be working. Now, let's pop this guy off. Now, what we need to do is we need to run positive from the voltage regulator to the Arduino. Or what we can do is make a separate positive place, like a big one here. Make this whole thing possibly like a half of it positive and half of it negative, because then we could just run the ground to everywhere, and everything that needs 5 volt will take 5 volts. But actually nothing needs really 5 volt except this guy, which we can give him from here. Oh no, so just basically we're going to run one wire from the 5 volt, the positive here, to the V in on the Arduino, and we are going to run the ground, and we're going to make a whole ground rail here, which will make our life a lot easier actually. So it's going to be better that way, because if you want to keep, you know, adding a wire and a wire and a wire on a pin, every time you go to solder, one will pop off and it'll be very annoying, and it might touch something else and create bigger problems. So the positive is up here because it follows the straight line, as I remember. So we're going to take a wire from here to the V in on the Arduino. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and grab a red wire here from the wire thingy. There it is. Okay, and it just needs to be a small short wire. It doesn't have to be that long. So let's go ahead and find the cutters. There we go. All right, so I got myself a wire. I'm just going to strip it. Oh, there we go. We're going to do this side also. What the hell's wrong with me? I just lost my mojo. Maybe because it's small. There we go. Did I rip it? Or okay, doesn't seem like it got exposed from the way I was pinching it. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and set this up. So we need the positive on this pin right here. So if we go over, it's gonna be this guy right there, and he's gonna go over there. I think I don't even think that'll reach anymore. Actually, yeah, we're gonna need a different red wire. Let's do it a little bit longer this time. All right, so let's go ahead and grab it. We set this guy right there. Okay, perfect. And V in, I believe it was the first one on the Arduino on the bottom. Yeah, it is. It's right there, that one. So we're gonna go ahead and apply it to V in. And now what we can do is we could trim the wire somewhat because it's actually too long, to be honest. There we go. Kept a little extra just in case. So if we do cut some of this while we're stripping, then we're good. There we go. It's perfect. All right. So it's still kind of long, but it's okay because we don't have many wires to solder. So I'm gonna just lay it next to the pin here on the outer side. So when I go solder that side, I don't have to worry about this touching anything really. Okay. That should be in. Now I'm just double checking that it's not touching the ground. Perfect. All right, so that's in. Very nice. So we have positive going for the Arduino. Now we need ground. Ground is the pin right next to it, so we can go ahead and take a ground straight there and start grounding everything from the other pads. Or we could run a straight ground whole rail here just for ground and start taking the ground from here. We could also do that. And I think that's what I'm going to do, because this is going to need ground, this is going to need ground, this is going to need ground, this is going to need ground. Oh, sorry. So yeah, we're going to do a rail here full of ground because we're going to need a lot of ground. This needs ground, this needs ground, this needs ground, and this needs ground. So we're going to do a ground rail instead, which will be, I believe, a lot better. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just basically fill all these with solder. So let's just do that. Okay, very nice. Just needs a little bit more solder here. Can be somewhat tricky sometimes. Well, that was awesome. All right, that's fine right now. We'll worry about that later. We don't want to sit here for half an hour trying to do this. So move that blob. All right, so we'll just ground there. So we're going to take ground. Here's the voltage regulator. Fucking shit, that was really hot. We're going to take ground from here, and we're going to give it to this rail right there. Sorry about the language, but yeah, it was just an uncontrollable kind of thing. You probably know what I mean. All right, awesome. So I'm just going to see if the wire is long enough here, because we're going to take from that one to that one. Let's just shorten it out a little bit more. Okay. There we go. So we're going to take from this one. We said this was ground. Okay, perfect. And we're just going to apply ground to we'll just say this one right here. That one. Sorry about that. This one right there is gonna be fine. Okay, so that's ground. We could have made it a little bit shorter, would have probably been a little bit better, but that's totally fine. There we go. And that burn was really bad actually. All right, so now we have ground from the voltage regulator to the pad here, but the Arduino still doesn't have ground, and that's what we're gonna run ground for. We're gonna go to this ground pad right there, or maybe if there's a closer one, we'll go ahead and hit that. Let me see, where do we have another ground? What's over there? Yeah, we might as well just do the one next to the V and it'll be easier for us to find. So it would be that pad right there, and we're gonna go ahead and give it some ground from there. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and find this one, which is that one right there. It was next to the VCC on the Arduino. Okay. And I'm just gonna shorten this guy out a little bit more. All right, beautiful. So let's go ahead and put the ground wire into place here, which is gonna be the pin next to the V in right there. Currently I can't even see what I just did. Okay, just hold it into place and then we'll take a look what happened here. Okay, perfect, it actually was perfect. So now the ground, once it focuses, so we have a ground on the Arduino, we're gonna go ahead and ground it right there with the ground that we just got, the ground rail we're gonna call it. So here we go, right there. Beautiful, awesome. All right, so theoretically now, hopefully, if we boot this, the Arduino should boot up. And how would we know that? Well, just the LEDs start flashing. So let's just see what happens now. So it booted, and seems like it's working, but we won't know for sure just yet until we continue on. So, all right, seems like everything's fine. I didn't see any smoke. I don't smell any smoke. Nothing's hot. Everything looks good. All right, so now we finished the Arduino part. So the next step, I would say, let's see what we're gonna do. So this obviously, this little terminal here will also need power, but you don't want to give it power with these right here. And why is that? Well, because there's a lot of current going through. There's around 5 amps plus if you don't have a propeller. I don't recommend you add a propeller when you're doing these tests. So you'd want like very thick gauge wire touching this because this is the ESC power. Everything else, small wire, is just fine. So let's start grounding everything. And there's something to note. Now, for some reason, if you are spinning this way and it's actually dropping to 0%, and if you're going this way and it's increasing to 100%, which is backwards, all you would need to do is switch the positive and the negative here. And we might have to do that. So I don't know. We'll see how that's going to go. But let's start with the grounds. Yeah, let's do the grounds. Okay. You know, let's just do the screen. It's even better. So VCC, ground, SCL, and SDA. All right. Hoping that you got the same one as me. So VCC is going to take 3.3 volt. 3.3 volt is right there. Ground, we're going to get ground from the ground pad. So SCL and SDA are going to go to A4 and A5 right here. So everything will be basically aligned right here. So let's start with this guy. So let's flip him over. And we said this was VCC right here. So VCC is going to take 3.3 volt, which is the second pin right there. All right. So this one to that one right there. So that's what we're going to connect. We're going to go ahead and get some red wire here. Beautiful. So let's set this up. So just double checking VCC. VCC is going to go to 3.3 volt. All right. So yeah, okay. Okay. So there's VCC right there. I'm going to go ahead and grab some tweezers. It's going to be a little bit easier. And we're going to grab the first pin on the outside of the, which is that one right there. Okay. It's a little bit difficult for me to see from this far, so excuse me if it's taking a little bit longer than it should to solder something into place. Okay. Seems like it went in. Yep, perfect. And now we need to set up this pad. So did we set up? Yeah, we did add solder earlier. And that's the reason why I added just solder on specific pads. So it kind of does help on which pad that are required for the project. So I'm going to go ahead and okay, so that's in. So as I know, next to VCC is going to be ground. So let's go ahead and ground this. So we're going to go ahead and ground that to this rail that we created, because like I said, it makes things a lot easier. So I'm going to cut a little black wire. There we go. It's probably a little bit too long. No, it'll be fine. Oh yeah, it probably is. There we go. Okay. So now we need the second pad. It's so trippy to see it from far away. Hopefully that was the correct one. Yep. So that's ground for the screen. And we're going to go ahead and ground it with these guys right there. Right here. So let's go ahead and ground this guy. Okay. So that's in. All right, now we need basically the pins on for the screen that talk with this guy. So SDA is going to go to A4 and SCL is going to go to A5. So we just need two small wires here. And I'm going to make them two different colors. We're going to take, let's see. I'm going to take blue and green. So, or yellow and blue. There we go. So it'll be easier for the camera and everybody to see. All right, so we said SDA is going to, actually it should be even shorter. There we go. And, oh, that was a bit too much. There we go. Okay. Try to keep the wire exposed as minimum as possible, because that'll reduce issues. All right, so now we want A4 to SDA and SCL to A5. So SDA basically is lined up perfectly with A4. So I think that's what I'm going to do first here. Yeah, they are. So it's that one right there. So start with SDA to A4. Okay. There we go. It's going to be that one right there on the outside, because it's the only one that's actually aligned. Perfect. And even though it was still kind of too long here, that's fine. Just gonna twist this guy over, move this ground wire out of the way a little, and it's like a little puzzle. It's really nice, actually. Okay, so we need some sort of tweezers for this. I'm going to push this around like so and bring it over. It's a little bit difficult from far away. Okay, so this wire has kind of gotten a little bit ruined, which I really don't like here. So I'm going to cut some of it off. And then hope that I get shit. Or I might have to remove it completely. So, yep, I think so. What the hell's wrong with it? Alright, so we're going to have to remove that wire completely, because it's even, the plastic has came off of it here. There we go. Come on. You want to make sure you get rid of that, or you create a short and ruin the whole project, which we don't really want. I'm just going to use the yellow wire now instead. And what I'll do is I'll start with this side first. So I'll set this up like so. Let's fix up the camera a little bit. All right, so I think that's a little bit better here. So let's go ahead and grab the yellow wire. And we said SDA is going to go to A4. So that's what we're doing here. So here's SDA. Which one was it? Yeah, this one. Right there. Beautiful. Okay. And now we said it's going to go to A4. So let's set this up to A4, which is right there. That's going to be perfect if we can get the solder to touch that area right there. Okay. And then we can go ahead and actually start testing the screen. We can plug in the battery and test it out. So now I'm going to get another color so we can run the SCL, I think. So I'm going to get blue again this time. Hopefully blue is not cursed. There we go. All right. All right, so it's going to be on the inner pin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and, because it's going to be that pin right there, that's going to connect to this pin all the way here. So actually, you know what, I'll solder this one first. Since it's right there for us. Should be pretty simple to solder. Okay. That's in. And now we are going to just move this yellow one a little bit out of the way, if possible, hopefully. Okay. Just out of the way for a little bit. And we're going to come in with this guy. Okay, so I don't like how that wire kind of bent upwards now. It's being a little pain in the butt real quick. So there we go. Here we go. And now we just need it right there. That's perfect. So hopefully if we hit it now, it'll be into place. Let's double check. Is it in place? Seems like it. Yep. That's perfect. All right. So now in theory, if we go ahead and plug in the battery, the screen should light up if nothing burns. Perfect. So we're getting zero load, obviously, because we have nothing connected. So this proves to us that the Arduino is working and this guy is working. So I don't see any smoke and looking beautiful. That is perfect. Okay. So now what's the next step? Okay, so we finished the screen. Let's go ahead and all we have left is the potentiometer. This will be super easy, and then just these two. These two is what's left here. So let's go ahead and set up the potentiometer here. I think best we should do first, because we might have to flip the positive in the ground here. So we want is one of these pins, one of the edges will go to 5 volt. The other edge would go to ground. The middle one is going to go to A0, which is all the way over here, right there. Which is right there, A0. So let's start with the middle pin then, since we already know that's what that's going to be, and we'll just get it over with. So I'm going to use a little yellow wire for that. Okay, so I'm just pairing the wire right now. Just stripping it. Okay, let's flip this guy over. So we're going to take the middle pin on the potentiometer. And you kind of want to keep it away from the signal pin, because the signals, we put them here. You don't want to touch these pins. We want the middle one. And when you take a look here, that one is really close. So what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna do it on the other side, because the pins here are for the signal. That on the other side, the pins that we created. So I'm just gonna move it away just to reduce chances of some sort of a issue. All right, so now just again, A0 is right here. So if we flip it over, it's gonna be one of these guys. It's that guy right there, as I believe. Yeah, that's why I put solder on the pins that we're gonna be using, because it'll make our life a lot easier. And as you can tell, it has. So that's gonna go right here, right there on A0. And we're just gonna touch that in. Beautiful. Very nice. Okay. So that's set. Now we need the outer pins, one 5 volt and one is going to be ground. So let's get a black wire. And we're gonna run the ground to the ground rail, possibly. Let's see. No, we'll just run the ground right here. It's right next to each other, as you can tell. From this one to that one, that's what we're gonna do. So that would be like 0, and then how does it rate? Okay, hold on. I'm just trying to think about this. So if I'm going here, I don't know which way the resistance will increase, actually. So, anyways, yeah, we'll just run. Why do that? All right, so we're gonna run ground from here to that pin right there. Or does it have anything on it? Yeah, it does. So no, you know what? We'll just run ground to the other side over there. So let's just go ahead and set that up. We're gonna run it to the rail that we created. So here's ground. Here's a black wire. Okay. Which one should I take? I'll take this one right now. So I'm gonna keep it on the outside so it doesn't touch anything. It doesn't create problems. So here we go. Okay, so that's ground right there. And we're gonna go ahead and run it to our ground rail, which makes life a lot easier. Okay, very nice. Okay. Okay, good. All right, now we just need a positive wire, which will go from the other side, which is going to be that side right there. So we're going to set that to the 5 volt. And we can just give it 5 volt to that one right there, which we're getting 5 volt from this guy. Or no, let's just take it from the Arduino. I think it'd be better actually. Where's the 5 volt on the Arduino? So it goes like this. Yeah, we'll just give it 5 volt right there. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4th pin. Does it have solder on it? 1, 2, no it doesn't. So we're gonna add some solder on it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4th pin, which is that one right there. There we go. Okay, so let's get the power. 5 volt, pretty short. So we might have to flip the ground and the 5 volt on the potentiometer here. So we take that into consideration. Okay. Preparing the wire right now. There we go. Let's come here. So we got ground from this one, so it's this one's left over from the potentiometer. And I want to set it up here. Okay. And we said it was the 4th pin, which was that one over there. So it's a little bit long, but we might have to change the wire here a little bit depending. So I'll set this up like so. Okay. So that's into place. So let's boot this guy up and see what we get. Hopefully it doesn't catch fire. All right, so there we go. Okay, so like I said, now it's backwards. Now you can keep it like this if you want, but I want when I go clockwise, it goes up, not down. See, when I go back, it goes 100%. So we have to flip the ground and the positive on the potentiometer here. So what I'm gonna do is, since it's gonna be easier for me just to replace it instead of going the specific locations that are much more difficult, I'm just gonna change the wire that's right here because it's right at the edge of the board, and it just makes it really easy. So here's the ground. Let's take the ground, and ground doesn't reach. That is awesome. So here's the 5 volt right here. Beautiful. And ground is not reaching at all. That's fine. What we can do with the ground is we can make another wire, or there we go. You know, I'm not going to make another wire. What I'm going to do is make the rail a little bit longer next time. So here we go. So that's ground, and even then it doesn't reach. So that's fine. I'm just going to ground it then with the voltage regulator's ground here. So it'll work just the same. Doesn't really matter. All right. So that's in. Very nice. Let's go ahead and do a test. Here's a little test run. Beautiful. Perfect. That's what I want. That is perfect. Awesome. Now what's left? Now we need to apply power for this guy, which will be direct. And we need to connect here pin D9 and a ground for these little pins that are coming out, because that's where the ESC will come in, like so. Now you need to take something into consideration here. You need to mark where the ground will be so you don't put it backwards. So that's very important, as well as this here. So I think I'm going to keep the ground to the left here. So that's how I always remember it for some reason. So as you can tell, see, ground is my left. If I go here, this will be ground, and this will be ground for these guys. This is the power for the ESC, and this is the signal of the ESC. So the left side here, that side is ground. So this is ground, but this ground is different. So we're going to leave this alone right now. Let's just set this guy up. So we just need 2 wires. So this one is going to be ground. What we can do is it's a little bit too difficult. It's going to be. All right. So we're almost done. It's going to be a long video, actually. I'll be surprised if anyone watches it. Okay. All right. So we said the left side, which is that side on the board. So this pin right here, that pin right there is going to be ground for me. So I'm going to go up the ground, which is that one there. And what I want to do is I want to grab my tweezers here a little and kind of push the wires a little out of the way, because this is the pin right there. And I'm definitely going to melt some of these wires because I told you they're not silicone, but they're kind of like silicone. Okay. So I'm going to set up this ground wire. So this is the ESC signal ground now. All right, and we'll just pipe it over to the rail that we created here, the artificial ground rail, whatever you want to call it. So it's really nice when you do this is kind of keep your finger over all of the, I'll just wait for it, all of the wires here, so you don't have one that just comes out loose. See, just something like that. Okay, they all look good. All right, so now we need, so we said this is currently ground. So when we go ahead and insert our ESC, basically what's going to happen here is left is ground and right is signal. Can you see that? The middle one, there's nothing. This is how the ESC always comes. That's ground and this is signal. So the signal, which is this one, is going to go to D9 because that's how it's coded. So let's go set this up all the way up to D9. So we're going to take from here to D9. So I'm going to go ahead and prepare a wire. I'm going to use green. Green looks nice. There we go. And okay. Very simple and straightforward. All right, so that's the signal that's on that pin right there. And now we need D9. Where's D9 again? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, sorry about that. The camera kind of cut out. So D9 is the 4th pin from the top here. So we need to connect this guy to that guy. And we already put the wire there. So as you can tell, that's the solder because we only put solder on the ones we wanted. All right, so it's kind of a little bit too long here. So I'm going to shorten this guy out a little bit. Trim some of this. There we go. And let's set this guy up. So he's gonna go on that one right there. And we should be almost done, really. That's really basically it, to be honest. Okay. So there we go. I'm gonna put it from the outside. It'll be a little bit easier for me to come in with the soldering iron and just push him into place. Okay. There we go. That guy's in. And now, last but not least, which can be kind of tricky, is applying the power. But first, let's actually boot it and see what happens. So did this get fixed? Yes, this got fixed. Everything seems to be working. We won't know here what's going on until we either connect an oscilloscope or the ESC with power. But first, I'm going to run the power to the terminals here, which is going to be very important. So let's go ahead and do that now. Unplug this guy. And these terminals here, they cannot handle a lot of current. So if you're going to be building a dedicated, some type of an ESC tester, which you're going to be propellers on, let me know, maybe we could build something else, but this will not handle a lot of current, so just be careful. All right, so let's see what we're going to do here. We need a little bit thicker gauge wire, preferably silicone if possible. Oh, there we go. This might do here. I think I have some solid core wire, possibly. Yeah, this is a little bit thicker. It's really nice. All right, so I have this kind of solid core wire here, which comes like this. It's really nice. It's like these are little jumpers on for breadboards that I never even use them for anything, but this is their day. All right, so we need positive to positive. And we said we want to keep, I want to keep, and I'd recommend you get a marker and you just mark off this like black, so you know that's going to be ground. So my left is going to be ground. That's how I want it. So we're going to need the black wire, which is this guy. So that side right there is ground. So it's a little bit thicker gauge wire. It's a lot better than the ones we were just using. It's recommended to use even bigger if possible. Okay. So that's our ground. And that'll go right to this guy right here, because that would give the ESC direct power from the battery, because that's what we want. Okay. Turns out it's not even solid core. It's bullshit, but that's fine. So I'm just going to add a little bit of solder on that. It's very thick. It's very, not thick. Yeah, it's very stiff. That's the word. All right, so we're going to give the power right here. And did you see that? That came in. That would have made a big problem. Okay. So that's in. So that's positive for the terminal. And now the positive is this guy here for me. So let's go ahead and grab this positive wire. And we're going to set that guy up right there. Make sure we don't bridge it because it's really close to the ground there. Okay. I was recommending to put something below this so nothing shorts out. Like there's no, what is it called? There's basically no anything. There isn't anything conductive below it while you're using it. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this power here, and we're gonna see the moment of truth. Okay, so everything should be perfect. Now let's see if we fry a motor, fry ESC, or just blow up the battery. Let's go ahead and check this out. So how would this work now? Let's grab this and we're gonna loosen it because that's gonna be ground. Left is ground. And loosen this guy. So, and here's our ESC, which I had kind of set up in a retarded fashion, so I don't short circuit anything because I have a bad habit of shorting almost everything out. Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, there we go. All right, so we said ground is left. Let's go ahead and set up the ground. Here's ground. This is left here. Okay, so that's in. So we have our ground for our ESC. And then now we need the positive for our ESC, which I have somehow cut in a way. There we go, that's good. So I'm gonna stick this guy in here and tighten him down. Okay. So there we go. And we said the signal, the left was ground because it kind of dictates from the Xt60. All right. There we go. And now you should know which one's your 100%. You have to set this up to 100% every time, the first time you ever use it. Make sure the motor is somewhere not dangerous. And make sure there's nothing that can set anything on fire. All right. So here's our ESC and here's our motor. And now let's go ahead and connect battery. All right, so something is wrong here. Oh no, that's perfect. Okay. And now calibration. And now let's just turn this. I'm gonna hold it with my hand here. That was pretty good. It's a pretty strong motor actually, this guy. So here we go, like this. We should hold him like that. And there we go. Perfect. Now that chopping is from the delay in the code, so we can, I think, get rid of it. I'll optimize the code, see the best way to do it, and I'll leave it linked down below. You just flash your Arduino and just start building it. I recommend you flash it before you build it. And now we're done. Remove this. So the ESC after the first time, it should be calibrated. So make sure this is on 0. So if you were testing now, since the ESC is calibrated, it can be a static module with this setup as a motor tester. Then you just replace the motors here. So now make sure it's on 0 before you boot it so it doesn't go in the calibration sequence. It should be, that's it, pretty much calibrated now. If we just start spinning it, or just give it some time to boot. I think that chopping is the delay, the 20 millisecond delay that I have set up, but I'll remove it now and see what it'll do. So overall, mission is a complete success in a nice little package, and we will be doing a V2 of this where we set up a nice little 3D printed design or something, and even do an extra module for ESC, like a dedicated ESC module, which somehow will connect via pins or something. I don't know what just yet, or maybe even, I don't know just yet, but we'll figure it out. But overall, now we have a proper working beast of a little ESC / motor tester, which you just, put your power, pins, and then just turn this guy. Now, for example, if you're removing the ESCs off your quadcopters, most of the time this will be cut. So what you can do instead is just put 2 terminals instead of putting the pins here. Now, for me, it doesn't really matter. I could always add the terminals also later on. It's the same concept, so you can do that as well. And well, I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. I have no idea how long it's going to be. If you really do like this content, let me know down in the comment section. And I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll leave a link to everything down below. If you can use those obviously greatly support the channel. And if you could join my Patreon, I do awesome giveaways there. And it'll really support the channel. $1, $2, $5, whatever a month would do an absolute good for the channel. And I really hope you guys enjoyed it. And I will see you next time. See you guys. Take care.